We did what we had to do. Islington, Enfield, I was there, I saw it all. Immigrants, Muslims, homosexuals, terrorists, disease-ridden degenerates. They had to go. Strength through unity. Unity through faith. I'm a God-fearing Englishman and I'm goddamn proud of it.
That's quite enough of that, thank you very much.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. We have brothers Imran and brother Igor today. Assalamu alaikum brothers.
Walaikum salam wa
Alaikum
rahmatullah.
assalam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How you guys doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Everything's good on my end.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah,
Yeah.
can't complain.
Well, with everything that's going on, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, especially with just the raising of the intensity of the fear mongering that's going on at the moment. So yeah, I just thought I'd put a few pieces together based on what we've been talking about on the chats and what's been going on. And I thought, yeah, let's just get some voice to everything that is going on. So yeah, here we are with what seems like to me. I mean, yeah, do you guys have any take on what's taking place at the moment?
I don't even know what's going on. I completely disconnect myself from the media and news and social media. So I know, I mean, Brother Sadi obviously has mentioned in our chat that,
Right.
you know, where he's from, it's chaos.
Right.
I think there's civil violence going on there, and
Yep.
it's see something about Pakistan going through the same thing and other parts around the world.
Right.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and of course we know who's behind it,
Mm.
but does mankind see it? Which is very, very strange, because it seems like if you don't follow the truth, you don't really know who's behind it
Right.
until you figure out, until you have, I guess, what we were talking about before, but there was a proper methodology, right? When you enjoin the good and forbid the evil. So knowing the truth before knowing the lie, I think, is more crucial.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know a few people that, you know, all they talk about is a lie, is this, number 19, this. It's all lies.
Mhm.
It's all they have. That's their tool to look for the truth, is through lies.
Mhm.
It doesn't work like that. The truth is so much grander than the falsehood that there's no comparison. So why you're looking at it the opposite way, in a sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that being said, yeah, like, I mean, enjoining the good, forbidding the evil,
Absolutely.
that's my methodology that I'm currently on.
Yeah. And I love how you've been diving into those areas which I'm completely disconnected from. And I was going through your stuff, and it's clear. I know you're right. We need to be looking at a lot of more of nature, a lot more of the beneficial stuff, the good stuff that Allah's created. You're absolutely right.
Mhm.
It's as they would say, I think before, it's a sign of the times, right? That's the phrase. It's a sign of the times. They would say, you know, what's happening and what where our minds are at. So yeah, I completely agree. But Brother Igor, what do you think about what's going on? I think you've been looking at some of, yeah, I think you've been keeping up with what's happening in the world as well.
Yeah, I mean, almost, at the kind of risk of my sanity in a bit, because I think, like, a lot of these kind of, I guess you would call them events in history, right? But really, like Brother Imran is saying, that it's all premeditated. So in a sense, like, it's such a clever way of keeping humanity on this kind of treadmill where, if you give them like these kinds of successive attacks of fear, then all of a sudden, like, a person is just more likely to be overwhelmed.
Yeah.
When you think about it, you can't look at things in isolation, because, every single piece has the same fingerprints on it. And it's almost like there is a puzzle being created for us of where the world should go, not where it should ideally be. And I mean, you can go from every continent, like you mentioned in Bangladesh. Same thing is you know, kind of showing its, you know, showing its colors in Lebanon, as well as in the UK, where you guys are,
Yeah.
and also in America.
Yeah.
They have a kind of stage shooting of, the kind of supposed president of the United States. I think a lot of this stuff has to kind of play in with each other, like Imran was saying, when you go back to the truth that the Quran was sent with, you can kind of see exactly why these, things are not just random occurrences.
Yeah.
Like, even when I think back to a year or so ago, we had the same kind of a thing happening in Sri Lanka, and that's not too far from Bangladesh in a sense. So it's anyone's guess, like what will happen, but like the government tweet all the same, I think, in that event. And the instability in the UK has a lot of similarities to the one that you see in America, I would say. It's just like kind of along these racial lines and the division through politics and through way of life and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Politically, essentially.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they are scrambling to bring something about. Maybe they're scared, maybe they're on edge. I would say the former, honestly.
Yeah.
I think there's an element of fear on their side.
Well, I do want to come to this. I mean, those of us who were rapidly learning as much as we could in 2020, I think we were all the same in that sense. Yeah. When we were shaken up, we were rapidly, I'm guessing we were all the same. I think we were the same, rapidly learning as much as we could, because we had no idea what was coming. But then we all, the thing that seemed to be in common was this whole 2030 agenda, what they call Agenda 2021, 2030. But once I realized that, yes, some of these things aren't exactly happening, on some of the things aren't happening the way we plan, it's like, okay, it's kind of like, why are you looking at this? This is a waste of time now. It's a waste of energy. But yeah, with what's happened right now, I can feel the tension. I can usually tell just by my neighbors feeling, or the street, going to the park, the way people look on their faces, the way people are messaging, the way family members are acting. I can always tell, even if I'm not watching the news, they can tell me the news basically, indirectly. And I just couldn't help. I know you were speaking with that brother, whom I'm yet to connect with, inshallah. You mentioned V for Vendetta, and I thought it's absolutely incredible that, this is basically what's happening right now in the UK.
Oh, it's uncanny. I mean, that movie is like from 2005, I think, and wow. I mean, if you just watch that again, it's almost like that is kind of the trajectory in a way.
Yeah. And that's the scary part. This is why in the book that I'm writing, a major piece is how people are actually helping bring about these prophecies, And for me, this is included in the prophecies. When they put out a movie like this, it's like a prophecy, and there's actually people helping this prophecy, what I say prophecy because prophecy in the sense of, how would you define prophecy?
Oh, yeah, I guess kind of like self-fulfillment of something in the future.
Right. And yeah, as I mean, I know Brother Imran knows this as well. This is all
soothsaying, basically soothsaying, right?
Soothsaying, right. So yeah, when we look at this, predictive programming, as we know, truth in the movies, lies in the news. And yeah, I just find it incredible how what's happening right now is this, as you said, this was in 2005. Yeah, Muslims and being labeled again terrorists. It seems to be always, yeah, repeated. We know these patterns, is regurgitated, repeated, and it's the sheep that kind of bring this about. But the main reason I wanted to bring up is because I know you mentioned about the Quran, yeah. And this is what's important. See, again, what Brother Imran was saying, not getting pulled into all of this nonsense, the dramas and the lies that everyone's busy looking at and actually helping. But it's this bit for me that's important, which I think you used as well, which is the demonization of Muslims and probably more importantly, the Quran, I'd say.
Yeah.
Um, because I think Sam Gerrans, he had a conversation with someone a while back, I think a year ago, and they were talking about Andrew Tate. And I found it interesting how that lady that he was in conversation with, basically they were alluding that this is a repetition of what they did to the Christians in the past to make them faithless, to make them
Right.
their religion. And it seems like that this is now a repetition of that, the attempts to make people lose, yeah, their connection to the scripture, lose their faith to this. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to go on much, but I just found it unbelievable how this movie seems to stand out the most with what's happening right now.
Definitely.
Yeah. And yes, we are, I'd say we are the crazy people. What as the crazy people.
Anonymous too, right? Anonymous has the same mask as V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
The crazy people are anonymous.
Yeah. So again, just for those who are new to this, this movie, V for Vendetta, we're not going to go into this, but it's interesting how it was made by the same people who made Matrix, who used to be men once upon a time, yeah, who used to be men, the Wachowski brothers who turned into the Wachowski sisters. So yeah, just in case people are wondering, this is magic at the end of the day. This is pure satanic magic being enacted by everyone. And I don't think it's a coincidence that V for Vendetta, one of the main actors, John Hurt, he plays Adam Sutler, is it Prime Minister or President, whatever it is, the leader. And it's not a coincidence that
I think it's Chancellor.
Right, Chancellor. Okay.
Like Hitler, basically, like just Chancellor.
Yes, yeah. Like Hitler, yes. And it's not a coincidence that he played the main character in 1984. I think the first main movie of 1984. So it's all there. Again, we could go on forever with this, but yeah, please do go ahead. Any of you, if you've got something to say on what's happening and this predictive programming that the sheep seem to be playing out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's really good you pointed out, like how the conspiracy theorist in 1984, the film, they happened to take the same actor to be basically the kind of tyrannical despot in this future scenario of the UK.
Yeah.
I actually wonder sometimes, because we've been here for a while with these kind of rabbit holes and whatnot. If a lot of it is just meant to kind of like foster something in people that for so long they've been kind of downtrodden, and they've been just, at least in America, this is pretty obvious to see.
Yeah.
But I would say the West in general is kind of like that. And then eventually the system starts to favor these things as trendy, these kinds of like perspectives on the world, with the whole 2020 and onward, that whole kind of ordeal, right? So eventually, I mean, you have a president that is like the most charismatic leader that has a voice for these kinds of outcasts from society, the kind of renegades of the political spectrum, that they have this kind of view that, the elites are satanic, and the government is corrupt and all this, right? So they have like a kind of populist movement to basically organize the majority of those people that have a problem with that magic that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So they can effectively, in my opinion, be radicalized, militarized.
Mm.
And when you just think about, just go backwards to the sequence that needed to happen for this to have more weight now.
Yeah.
All of the wars that perpetuated, the kind of just vast migration of people, which was effectively allowed. It was let to happen, right? Millions of people.
Yeah.
And this was done after, a lot of their places were destroyed, like, and just completely destitute. I mean, imagine, like, it's not like you're worrying about losing your job. You're worrying about staying alive in most cases, right?
Yeah.
And then in many ways, they have already primed the culture to accept them to be, the kind of the magic people, where they kind of, like, unclear about what gender they're born on, and all of the society itself is radically opposite to the society these people that are migrating come from.
Mm.
That's quite a just polarization right off the bat.
Mm.
And naturally, when you kind of mingle people from very different walks of life like that, has nothing to do with race or religion or even. It's just a certain mindset that people are used to, right? I mean, you get this even from town to a different part of the same country, right? So I think they put all the ingredients together to bring about this scene, this idea in V for Vendetta, where people will actually call for more autocracy. They'll call for more tyranny, because to them, they see themselves as the benefactors of that, as a disenfranchised majority. So they need somebody to blame. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
Even though the people to blame are the people that they're voting in power, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, I know. Yeah. Take away their jobs, basically, whereas actually it's something else that's taken away their jobs, but they're taking away their jobs, and then they're giving them someone to blame for why their jobs are taken away. Yeah, I thought of Ukraine in the same way. I saw it in 2010, I think, as early as 2010 or 2012, watching what was taking place, and these people being pressured into leaving and coming to, for example, UK, where I am, even in London, and then pushing the fear mongering as well, that these are criminals, etc. But then actually learning, meeting a lot of them, being just like me and you, ordinary people, and
Absolutely.
just being forced into this situation where they don't want to be here, but they're forced to survive because
Yeah.
the people in power have destroyed their own country, have
It's destabilized.
yeah, it's like my country as well. The reason why my grandfather came here was because the same thing was happening in India. Those who know Indian history, they know what is it? What's that company? The British
East India Company, right?
East India Company, exactly. Those who know the story will know that, yeah, there was events taking place that, first of all, they went as pirates, raping, ravaging, destroying things over there, and then pushing people to come here. And yeah, then they act like as if, oh, these people coming to destroy this country. No, you know. So yeah, same thing, just this same cycle just seems to repeat itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can go back even further. I mean, you can go back to the 1940s and stuff, right?
Mhm.
All of those events, as we're told, that, I mean, there was a forced migration of people that they needed to create this discrepancy in the population of what we call Palestine today. Right?
Right.
So they went to Yemen, they went to Morocco, they went to Iraq, they went to all kinds of places, Europe, especially Russia.
Yeah.
And they brought these new people in there to create a new country that would be the justification for the destabilization of the surrounding countries.
Yeah.
and then the surrounding countries clearly become destabilized as the excuse of protecting this new country.
Mm.
And we're still like, 70 years later, like battling this, central problem like that just cannot be solved. I don't know how, like, what excuse there is, like there's so much land around the world. It doesn't have to be anywhere specifically if you want this prospect of a homeland.
Mm.
But they have to do it there because they know, like, whatever it is, there's something about like all the attributes around the Quran, the fact it's in Arabic, the
Mhm.
fact that there's this, concept attached to it called Islam, right? All of these things are necessary to be eroded eventually.
Eroded. I like that word. Yes, eroded. Yep,
Yeah.
slowly, slowly chipped away.
That picture you have there shows exactly that. I mean, the loss of land over time, slowly,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the same thing goes with this Quran. The truth that's in it slowly lead people away from it, or slowly change what it means to people, to the masses today. And yeah, so again, just
Yeah.
go ahead, yeah.
I mean, that's the scene that really kind of, when I watched it again after many years, it was just kind of struck a chord with me.
Yeah. I mean, this is enough for me. Just these two alone, Muslims, them talking about a condition of London after a civil war has taken place, and them pointing to America. Look at how terrible America became, and basically they're saying, "Oh, this is actually how we prevent ourselves from becoming America as well." They're saying it back in 2005. They're saying that look
Yeah.
what America did, destroying themselves, and look, thank God, and they use God as well. They try to use faith,
Right.
oh, thank God we were good. We followed God's law, God's rule, and we saved ourselves from the terrible condition of America. And how did they do that? Oh, we got rid of the Muslims and we banned the Quran. So it's always under
Yeah.
the guise of faith. I mean, look what he says.
I think, that's very poignant, honestly, because I've wondered for a long time, why does the political spectrum agree that Islam fits on the left, let's say? Because it doesn't match the other groups on the left. They have effectively turned Muslims into a race because all those are identity groups. Islam is something different because there is no look to a Muslim, technically.
Yeah.
And there is no actually being born into the genetics of a Muslim. I mean, we can have a discussion on that, but I think, most people understand that Muslims, what they really mean is just non-white people. And that's it. That's the issue. That's essentially the issue. It's the argument from this side of the equation is insincere in every way. Like they're not actually sincere to the following God, right? Because this Christian kind of pseudo renaissance of sorts is actually doesn't have a problem with the Bible in the state that it is whatsoever. They actually don't have any weight or value upon the scripture having preservation, teaching like the actual truth that, it's a means to an end, really, whoever created the Bible. And really, if you think about it, this kind of Western kind of Christianity, it's miles apart from the other churches, I would say, because it's somehow like it shows itself as a very grandiose kind of modern, very supremacist and imposing movement of, I guess, so-called believers in Jesus Christ. And the actual Jesus Christ has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like what we call Christianity in, let's say, America today was originally something else, and they're just using this facade of the church and Christianity to push something back to what that originally was. So you'll notice, like in America, I've noticed a lot of these Christians are truthers. Basically, they're into conspiracies, and
Yes,
so a
yeah.
lot of them they don't actually they don't actually go back to the Bible being a conspiracy itself.
Mm.
They're in denial about that, but they will tell you that Earth is not a spinning ball
Yeah,
very confidently
yeah.
because of the Bible.
Well, I really liked what this, so Miss Ali, you're familiar with, she commented,
Mhm.
she shared something which I managed to finally listen to this morning. Well, it's only been out for a day, but for me, it was a breath of fresh air. It's like something happens to my neurons, to my wiring, to my brain wiring when I listen to something like this, you know. It's like it's almost like it's in a bit of a uneasy, anxious state until I've heard some kind of truth. You know, that's how it is for
Mhm.
me. And just to hear this, it just feels like, okay, you know, Alhamdulillah, thank God, you know, thank Allah that, you know, yes, this is basically what it is. That's what I needed. I needed reminding. This is what the Quran is about, right? The Quran says it's a reminder,
Right.
right?
That's right.
So we need reminders. So as much as, you know, I'm with Brother Imran as well, I've had enough of this, and I think many of us have had enough of all of it.
Mm.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
there is a level of needing some level of reminding, you know, because I don't think there is any waking up people. There isn't any necessarily
Right.
trying to educate new people. I don't know. It's just, I could be wrong. But there is a need for us to speak the truth and remind ourselves of, you know, what is taking place. And I just loved it when I listened to this guy, and he just kind of summed it up really well in 45 minutes. Um, so yeah, that's what it is that we need. We need reminding. There's otherwise there isn't really any power that we have. As you said, I think you said in one of your voice notes, you know, the
Mm.
idea that we can actually make any change in this world, that we can actually do something, you know, yeah, it's something to think about, you know.
Mm.
It's just
Yeah,
about
yeah. You're right. I mean, it's very sobering, this these kinds of updates on the world,
mm,
because it's easy to get accustomed to certain things like that you enjoy, and that it's easy to kind of like live in this bubble of security, and sometimes it becomes narcissistic in a way
mm,
when what we see in the world is this we have all kinds of like reasons to pay attention in some way, as best we can, because whatever it is, whatever location it's in, it's coming for you as well. It's kind
mm,
of like a portent in a sense.
mm,
I think it's almost like back in like 2020, like if you put yourself in the perspective of someone living in February 2020,
mm.
and everything was pretty much kind of normal, I guess, since 2019 and before.
Yeah,
Um, but what I noticed is I would be getting these kinds of updates. This maybe was something new, and they would tell you like on the news, they'll kind of update on your phone and say like, oh, by the way, we found this one case and there was an outbreak in this Wuhan and something. I'm
yeah,
thinking, okay, whatever, who
yeah.
cares? I mean,
Mm,
that's kind of the mentality, right? Because it's like, well, okay, interesting. I mean, that's not the first time there's been an epidemic somewhere in the world.
mm.
And what that transpired from that is whoever sent, I mean, whatever kind of organization or system allowed for that to propagate
Mm.
before the actual event went live,
Yeah.
that means that they do tell you what's going to happen in
Yes.
some form,
Yes.
right?
It's
Like,
yeah, as far as I've seen it, it's not like a set in stone thing, but
mhm,
that is the aim. And if it works well, then
mhm,
because the way Allah works is perfect. It's, you know, it's decisive. But whereas the way the evil works, it's attempts, isn't it? It's attempts. Um, so
right.
it's exactly the same. So what you're saying is what you're describing is, yeah, they try it and then they see have they got enough ready? Is it the right time? Can they go forward? If not, then it's kind of like the plan is delayed, um, or
Yeah.
or dropped, maybe, you know.
Their plans are definitely delayed. Sometimes they're too premature.
Yeah.
There's a kind of finessing regarding how they come out with things, but
Mm.
essentially that's a kind of proven concept to me that they do warn, because they style themselves as warners. That's how deluded they are. They kind of see themselves as the inheritors of the true faith and the true promise of Allah, and nothing can be further from the truth. The only, ilah they have is the enemy that Imran described.
Yeah. Brother Imran, is he still there or has he left?
I'm still here. I'm just on driving right now.
Okay. You're on your
When I
way.
stop, I'll stop.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so this actually reminds me of a story I used to hear when I used to follow a lot more of the traditional Islam. There was a story, I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's two people in the desert, of course. Yeah, there's two Arabs in the desert. And one person comes up with the sword and says something like, no, he's without his sword. He says, "Stay here. I'm gonna go get my sword and come back and kill you both." Yeah. And they actually stay there, and he goes, grabs his sword, and he comes back and he kills them. I can't remember exactly how the story goes, but there was something very powerful in that. That is something about the psychology of people where they're warned or they're told, that's like it's some kind of psychological play, isn't it? I'm gonna do this to you.
Yeah.
And maybe you could say the sheep or those who don't think, they actually let it happen to them. But I just found that
Yeah.
very powerful as a psychological story of what seems to be taking place. We just
The Quran is so amazing because you can pluck any kind of concept that you're looking for from its ayat. Like when you see the companions of the fire where they argue amongst themselves, there's leaders leading great masses of people to Jahannam, and the leaders say, I think it's the kind of like simple people that followed, and they're saying like, well, our leaders led us astray. Please give them the double punishment, because they actually are the ones that caused us to go astray. And the leaders, because they're kind of like shayateen in human form, they're just like, no, we didn't. We didn't force you to do anything. You just heard us and you just did as you were told. We didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's like, how do they have a war? They have a war because people enlist. How do they have any violence? Because people participate. So it goes both ways, in my opinion.
We followed our great ones, isn't it? We followed our great leaders. That's the verse you're on about, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It seems like that's associated with.
Surely we obeyed our leaders and our great men. They led us astray from the path. Yeah.
I think the word is like kabir as well in there because
great men.
That's one of the idols that Ibrahim mentions. There's a big one and then there's smaller ones.
Kubra.
Yeah. So
that's them basically, isn't it?
In a sense, yeah. And then they have their leaders that are unseen as well, right?
Yes.
So it's like a kind of pyramid of complaining. How could you lead me astray? You were responsible for me. How could you lead me astray? I was in the madrasa learning from you, and I was your student and your disciple.
I was in the masjid that I was told that the Dajjal would not be able to enter.
Yeah, exactly. So you have this like telephone of people. Like the kind of you're kind of waiting to. It's this kind of hypothetical situation where a person needs to take a shot with a sniper, and then they keep asking their higher up for permission, and it never comes to it because the people who believe in an infinite regress of creation, then they can actually take the shot. So Allah created the universe. It's a long, but the idea is there's this kind of chain of command, and nobody's actually culpable in the end.
Right.
They're all culpable collectively.
Yes. Reminds me of the verse where Allah says that throwing all of them together, the jinn and the ins, into the hellfire, right?
That's an amazing verse because if you look, I think it doesn't use the word jinn exactly. It says jinnah, jinnati.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting about that is perhaps this is describing what people are battling in this life.
Right.
Because, you know, they will say to the messenger, to the believers, you have a jinnati in you.
Yes. Thank you for that, because I just on my latest upload, I expressed that when we were diving into demonology earlier this year, I did notice, but I never had a chance. But I thought I'm pretty sure that this where is it? So the jinn, so Majnun is clear. They all agree Majnun is mad,
Yeah.
crazy. But this one, I thought, yes, I believe they've done a bit of a job here because there's 10 occurrences.
Right.
There's 10
So
occurrences.
why is it,
But
you
they
know,
say
why is
half
it
of them.
madness
Yeah,
and
exactly.
jinn?
Half of them they say madness, but half of them they say jinn. Because it makes sense to
Yeah.
me that what Allah is actually saying is this companion of yours that's coming with this Quran, there is no jinn in him, right? Am I right?
Exactly. And because there's already a word for jinn,
Mhm.
there has to be a discrepancy of what that is, because it
Yes.
seems like the jinn is this kind of like collective term. They operate in a different, totally different pronouns than us, funny enough.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, a jinnati is always next to a nas,
Okay.
but al jinn is always next to al ins.
Right.
What's the difference?
And
Al
nurse. Okay.
ins,
So you found that pattern, yeah? And nurse is with
al jinnati.
jinnati, and the other one is ins is with jinn. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
And insan is with jan.
Right. Insan is with Jan. Okay, yes. See, I was doing a little bit of work, but I knew the brother Igor will know this to the finer detail for sure.
So,
Yeah.
so you know what's interesting about that is if you put all of those kind of terminology for humans and non-humans,
Mhm.
what you'll find is that they're almost like opposite.
Right.
Like Anes describes the totality of like all of the unesin,
Mhm.
which is like, you know, groups of people, or basically the widest group possible.
Mhm.
And then al-insan,
Mhm.
which is sometimes translated as mankind,
Mhm.
is just one from the ins.
Mhm.
So really, ideally, you know, you'd want to have like a kind of hierarchy of how many people fit in each category.
Right.
The jinn have the opposite though. So
Mhm.
al-jinnah,
Mhm.
it seems to be like the actual individual.
Yes, I remember you saying this, that we're opposites in the sense that we are individuals, but they operate as collectives, right?
Yeah. And it makes so much sense, because how is it that when Allah is saying, you know, you are tested in this life,
Mhm.
He goes straight to the ringleader, ash-shaytan. Do not follow ash-shaytan,
Mhm.
even though we understand that there's basically this collective of shayateen, his
Mhm.
progeny,
Mhm.
that affects every person individually somewhere.
Mhm.
Why is Allah telling, you know, why is Allah saying ash-shaytan leads you astray, ash-shaytan? How does ash-shaytan, Iblis, affect everybody like that? Unless these progeny are like this
Mhm.
hive.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Yes. The whole pyramid and the web makes a lot more sense, right? The pyramid and the web.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then when you see also like Adam, the kind of corresponding creature to Iblis,
Yeah.
Adam is the opposite. Adam is one person
Yes.
from which all of us are pieces,
Mhm.
individuals.
Yeah.
Iblis is one being that is still technically connected to this progeny of his, the shayateen, the
Mhm.
qarins. And it's just so interesting to me that like humanity has this role
Mhm.
that is basically kind of like parallel with the jinn.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why that knowledge is so crucial. If we didn't know that, then we wouldn't know anything about how to fix this and how to combat this situation.
Well, this is why I thought, again, just going to the latest upload I did, because someone was saying that earlier this year, someone said that it's not the evil that Allah created, and I know. So when they say, "Oh, there is no He," it's implied in the Arabic grammar. Am I right?
Yeah, in a sense, khalaqa, like for example, like you could say that that's he created.
Yeah.
But it's it still stands to reason that if he created something, there's a capacity for evil to come from that. It's not that he made the evil directly in a sense. I mean, you can imagine like if you give the creation the ability to choose things, ways of life, then of course it comes from, like when Allah says evil comes from you, right?
Yeah.
That's clear that he's saying that this is part of your test from evil of what he created. Could that be one individual in a sense? Is Iblis really that like evil when you think about it? Like there's just like no comparison.
Well,
he created him.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to because I was just focused on these final two surahs, and I was just looking at the whisper into the chests of An-Nas, and this is actually what we just spoke about jinn. So I wanted to double check because this is where it is used, as you said, An-Nas and Al-Jinnati. So
exactly,
as far as I could see, I was trying to reconcile or understand better when this seems to be the evil that Allah created. If you just, sure, it's more than that because the Quran is definitely multi-layered, and very profound for like one explanation. But as far as I could see here, that this is when Allah says from the jinn and the al-nas, from al-jinnati and al-nas, it's clear that these whispers, of Iblis or the sneaky, al-waswas al-khannas, that it is not just from the jinn, it is the human beings that we see today. Yeah, where are they?
Right.
These people, clearly they're in cohorts with the jinn, as far as I can see.
Yeah. That's such an interesting thing because shayateen min al-jinn wal-ins, it's kind of like if you succumb completely, hypothetically, to your jinn, like you have a personal test, then it stands to reason you are basically a puppet of this thing. And that's kind of what we call politicians as well, like puppets.
Yes.
So they become vessels for these things. They're like kind of like little human suits that they can just spread the whispers and satanic kind of arousing desires in people.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense why it's the wah, right? It's like talking about the same thing. Alladhi yuwaswisu, like it's almost like Iblis has this kind of like distorted paradigm that Allah has. Allah has the angels. The angels, they operate exactly what he says and they don't waver in that. The shayateen, they're a bit different, but the idea, the principle is similar, like how he kind of has an army of them, literally. And they are the ones that just heed his call. He says, he whispers in the chests of mankind, right? And they're from the jinnati and from mankind.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are his like foot soldiers in a way.
People would like to look over that last bit there. Or not.
I mean, think
about that last bit there. Yeah.
Who are Junud Iblis?
Yes.
It's like you have all kinds of Junud. There's Junud Jalut.
Yeah.
Junud Fir'aun.
Yes.
There's also Junud Suleiman as well, which encompasses ins and jinn and birds.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to suggest that an army is just exclusively jinn or humans.
Yeah. Yeah. This is exactly what I quoted how Allah speaks of the Junud of Iblis. All ajma'in, all thrown into hellfire. And yes, as we know that's necessarily jinn.
So when Allah says he will fill or he has filled Jahannam with jinnati and nas,
Mm.
then you can imagine how hellish that is.
Yeah.
All of those voices now are paired to the person for eternity
Mm.
with no filter.
Mm. Allah protect us.
And
Allah
this
make
is,
us
yeah,
successful. Yeah.
yeah, this is like why it's so crucial, because you can look up that word jinnah in the dictionary and all you get is really lunacy, madness,
Yes.
possession.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much like this kind of class of individuals from the jinn.
Mm.
And it makes sense. Like, Allah says the fuel is for Jahannam is men and stones.
Mm.
What would the stones be if not these things?
Ah, interesting.
Like, if you think about it, Rajim is the title of Shaitan.
Yeah.
And Rajam is related to this idea of pelting or stoning, shooting. It could just be that, what they call stoning today is a bit of a kind of reveal in a way that they called it that. Because, it just seemed that
He is
what
our
people
regime.
call the,
He is our regime, yeah.
yeah, like what people call this kind of shooting down or expelling or something.
Mm.
I don't know. I wonder if that even results in some kind of petrification at that point, because
From
you
the heavens
know
above, right? From the heavens above, yeah.
they have these idols that they had statues and stuff. You have to wonder what that was.
Mm.
Remember, I remember in their discussion on the Tariq and stuff, how like they used to call these stones falling from the sky Beit Allah, in a sense,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's almost like they've revered it. Mankind is majority just kind of prey to shirk in a sense, and so they would revere these kinds of things that fall as gods. They call them sons of God, or angels or something in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what these things are. They think like, oh, you're an angel, and you have so much knowledge, and you have so much powers and all this, right?
Mm.
So they would literally treat even if they're in like a frozen form or statue or whatever,
Mm.
they would treat them as like their lords. Ibrahim's father, he says, support your gods.
Mm.
That's not
Tariq, yeah. So you're saying that the stones being thrown down, that's
by the stars. Yeah, the stars. You
yeah.
know, in that intense amount of heat, and I think actually, mainstream Muslims have even pointed out that Jahannam is the kind of intensity of starlight.
Mm.
So it wouldn't be surprising to me at all if devils
Mm.
do petrify. And this is why we have even like the concept of gargoyles and stuff on the churches and stuff.
Right.
This like this light, I'm sure Brother Imran would know like exactly, with the Fajr and the dawn and everything.
Yes.
The light is the thing that just dazzles their eyes, and they just turn to stone. Like we've heard of all these things. We grew up as kids. The idea.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Allah says, "Be you iron or stones, we will gather you."
Mm.
That tells you that this is a concept that's in there.
B-U-I and stones, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe the stones themselves have high deposit of iron.
Mm-hmm.
They're like attractive, magnetic.
So trying to stay on this with what's happening right now around the world, not just here in Britain, is kind of the reason why I'm doing this, because of how it feels right now here in Britain. Although again, just to emphasize, it's a lot of drama. Yeah, just as you know anyway, but I'm just speaking to the public that will be listening. It's a lot of drama. But as we know, it's already been, this has been the plan to demonize the Quran. And so I've noticed that you've been, I think, touching on this as well, with some truthers out there, trying to confuse the matter regarding the Quran, or about anyone who's trying to study the Quran. And
Yeah.
Brother Joel, before he took his break, he put something on the on the Telegram as well about the anti-Quranic strategy. Yeah, is there anything that you could maybe say on this, what you've been speaking about? And
Yeah, I mean, so if it's not apparent by now, there's always this false dichotomy, always. And I think it's meant to be that way because Allah puts all of the evidence in the middle between two extremes, between two false oppositions, right?
yeah,
That's why the word bayna and bayinat are related,
yeah,
and mubin as well.
yeah,
So it makes sense that, when Allah says the Yahud and the Nasara are allies of each other, do not be allies of them, or you're one of them. Very simple guidelines. I think, we will kind of see that precipitate more and more, but already, I think it's kind of apparent, even with our Yajuj Majuj video, that there is a collaboration effort to essentially mutually destroy everybody that could have a capacity to attach to the Quran without any context that's, given to them, inherited by them, to essentially, undermine the authority of the Quran.
Which
That's
one
what it
was the
seems to be.
Yajuj Majuj one? Just pointing to
Oh, that live stream 10. That's the one.
Oh, yes, that one, yeah. Yeah.
So that's why Ya'juj and Ma'juj are always mentioned together as corruptors in the earth. And when you think about it, what that document kind of shows is, it's, like from 2010, I think even before that, that there is this, I think basically what it says is they want to create this. I mean, it's just like the eschatology when we talked about with the two Dajjals and whatnot. Like they have this kind of sort of Christian side and sort of Muslim side. And, there's kind of this mutual destruction, madness, mutually assured destruction.
Yeah.
And what transpires from that is essentially you bring into full view exactly what the Quran condemns from the former nations. Like when you have Qawm Fir'aun and Qawm Ad and Qawm Thamud and Qawm Samiri and all of them. It's like they're trying to recreate this through this collapse, this engineered collapse. And maybe because they can't actually sustain the veil for much longer, they actually have to kind of slowly, soft reveal in a calculated way, as if to keep people herded. And so they fall basically in predetermined respective, groups. So one thing the document mentioned is that they will restore the caliphate, okay, in the kind of Islamic world, so-called. And the other side, they were saying, so that's one possibility. And the reason they want to do that is because they want to completely destroy any attachment to Islam or the Quran, perhaps even Arabic, altogether. With just, I mean, imagine if you have like the likes of, the Dawah people in UK, if they actually got what they wanted, and let's say the continental Europe and the Middle East and Asia followed suit in that model, that would be catastrophic for the average person. It'd be a tyranny like you've never seen.
Yeah.
But it would be something we've already experienced somewhere in the past collectively. It's kind of like Dark Age,
Yes, absolutely. But it's been scrubbed from our history, yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like masquerades as like Catholicism or something when, it seems like the people that look like that era are all in the Arabian Peninsula. They're all praying in mosques. So when you think about the other side of the equation, that would be very easy, like in America. I mean, it's already the vitriol is so apparent. Like you get Trump on the stage and he's like, yeah, so these Muslims, they're terrorists. And then these Mexicans, they're like criminals. And then these non-white people, they're aliens.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost kind of like he's enabling.
A clown show. It's a clown show.
Yeah, like for example, let's say you're the average person and you have, let's say some kind of grievances with the system, even though you're like 6, 7 generation in this land.
Mm-hmm.
And what do? You can't do anything. There is no political legal remedy.
Mm-hmm.
So this person comes along, this kind of clown show comes around, and it stirs up desires in people
Yeah.
that brings up the worst in them.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
they actually accuse, their
Those
problems
who
and
are
others.
infested more so with parasites and demons. Yeah.
There you go. So it's kind of like Allah guides whom He wills.
Mm.
That's pretty clear that there is no kind of and there's no kind of line as to you come from here, therefore you believe this. No.
Mm. Yeah.
But the more you read that document, whatever scenario ends up happening,
Mm.
it actually facilitates the banning of the Quran.
Mm.
And by banning it could be even voluntary at that point.
Are you on about this document here? 2010? 2010?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's exactly what you see in V for Vendetta, because
Mm.
the only people with access to an actual Quran, and even that Quran is kind of historic. It doesn't even have all the full markings in there, I think.
Right.
But even that is so powerful to me that that's in a movie
Mm-hmm.
in the UK.
Yes.
And in a way, we've kind of already gone to that situation, because who holds all of the historic Qurans today? The West.
The West, yeah.
A lot of them are in England, actually.
Yeah.
So
The Birmingham Museum. Am I right? Birmingham Museum? Something like
Birmingham, that. Yeah. There's one in France. There's some in France and the Vatican and the US, I think. It's interesting because
the
they've
funny
already
thing,
kind of.
yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, go on, yeah.
But I was just saying, kind of like they've already put this thing literally on a pedestal for just this kind of artistic appreciation of its superficial qualities of the actual book, not even the meaning of the words, nothing, not even.
Yes. Yeah.
He finds the poetry inspiring.
Absolutely. Exactly.
What?
And this is a homosexual who's in charge of entertainment. So yeah, it's all multi-layered. It's like I love that quote. What is it? Person who politicians tell you the lies. How does it go? You might remember. Politicians tell you the lies. No, they use the truth. They tell you lies. What is it? I can't remember exactly how it goes. Politicians use the lies to cover up the truth. No, but whereas an artist, I can't remember exactly how it goes. I need to find it. And then that's telling lies using
It's
truth.
kind of amazing that it is a homosexual guy that's defending the Quran in secret, because they've already made that association a long time ago.
Yeah.
They have this leftist kind of identity movements with the Quran is kind of Muslims.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the one. The artists use lies to tell the truth. Artists use lies to tell the truth, whereas politicians use them to cover up the truth. Yeah. Artists use lies to tell the truth, while politicians, there it is, yeah. And I find that very interesting. So that's what they do when we look at this homosexual, and it's like he's telling us the truth, but they're using it to cover up the truth as well. And that's what they do. Whereas we flip it back. We're telling people the truth using, these lies to tell people, and that's why we get asked, "Are we crazy?" Yeah. So so the plan is to obviously demonize the Quran. Sorry, did I stop you midway? You were saying something about the Quran.
No, it's like what you kind of see happening, and I've thought about this since like at least the last year, where if you kind of spend even a little bit of time on social media, Instagram or whatever, you'll notice that the youth are very numb to this concept of like racism and stuff. And I see it very openly now. Before it was kind of demonized, but through memes, through all kinds of different avenues, yeah, social media is definitely weaponized, because now it's like you can dehumanize an entire people with similar things to what they used in the past, you know, with these kind of satirical propaganda posters and whatnot. And that's the hallmark of a war era, right? That you have all that ready, and you have the people on some kind of a you know, silent agreement about these people are like this. This is the only way they can do it, because this is all that matters to people in the West, really. They don't have the values of, you know, like in the Islamic world where, you know, it's about your culture, it's about your tradition and stuff. That's a little bit there, but what is the culture and tradition in like America? There is nothing. It's about jobs, it's about money, it's about, you know, like the way you look, superficial things in a sense. But you know, when you
non-spiritual, yeah.
Non-spiritual, yeah. But what's amazing about that is the non-spiritual people are given a spirituality in a sense, which is kind of amazing, because that suggests that this is the only thing that humans are actually motivated by in reality.
This is where it's coated, isn't it? It's coated, it's truth. I mean, coated lies. When they say we trust, it sounds like it's something about God and faith, and
it's right there.
Yeah, it's not about atheism, but and then, you know, with the dollar bill and with the it's all coated. It's lies coated in truth. So as you just said, they give you a spirituality, or what they claim to be a spirituality.
Yeah, I've often wondered, you know, why don't they just get rid of religion altogether from the very beginning? Like, if they had this kind of calamity on earth, then what is stopping them from just eroding till the end? Why do they need an end time scenario for all these religions that they've already made ready? Well, it goes back to the concept of the Quran is unchangeable. It's going to be there no matter what. And so unless they have something ready to explain the existence of this book with its excuse, you know, they make excuses for the book essentially, then you are doing like, that's a really clever move in a sense, because most people are not going to go that deep to understand, does this all make sense, what we are told, handed to us, right? It's so vast that that's probably why people don't question it. You know, like, you know, if you had the capacity of like a supercomputer, you know, or thousands of them collectively, like the jinn kind of seem to be, then it does seem like it's real history. It does seem like there's a long tradition of hadith chains, and the Bible has this ancient, you know, history, and everything happened in this area. They can just, you know, regurgitate anything for you, and it would look convincing, like an expert wrote it instantly. So that's the situation at the moment. I mean, would it be funny, you know, if one day you actually saw like who those ancestors are of yours, that you noticed, you know, people in your time were constantly praising and lauding, and no, they would be totally different. It'd be so interesting, you know, like
yeah, definitely the way we've changed.
Allah says they didn't know anything, and neither do you. So why do we take credit for their achievements, even though their achievements are largely in a totally different context? And, you know, that doesn't give you anything about the mentality of who creates whatever, you know, architecture or technology or anything. It could just be like most of these people that are praised as cultural icons are fake.
Yeah,
it wouldn't bother me one bit, because it just seems so contrived to almost explain everyone's history as divided from the whole world. Right? Like, go to Iran and they have their own kind of thing, and that they're proud of that. Everyone's so proud of everything within the borders of these modern nations. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Again, you're just making it sound like how they gave us Manchester United and Liverpool as clubs to be proud of and support. But this is on a different scale, giving us these,
Yeah.
giving
I
us.
kind of see like like if you kind of see the Yahud and Nasara are like two sides of the same coin, it would make sense that one of them would do the dividing, like the Nasara, very, very clear. They divide themselves from the rest of the humanity. Like they say, like, indeed we are Nasara and we have our gods and we have this. But then the Yahud, I mean, they take liberties that transgress constantly. They have no boundaries, no filter. They just keep going and going and going and going, progressing on.
They don't
Let's
follow each other's Qibla, do they?
No.
Is
There's kind of twin
Yeah.
modalities there.
Yes.
And they both recognize that, hey, you know what? We could actually work as a team because, there's going to be these people eventually. And we kind of, from the Quran, it's apparent there's these people that they don't agree with any side. It's very frustrating. We have to keep dividing more and more and more and more, keep gaslighting and keep, just make it seem like everything from the Quran, from Allah, on one side is just, that's just some, harp technology, or that's some kind of like, machine we created to replicate the creation or somehow. And the other side, what they do is they just keep them in ignorance. Like they just, oh, subhanallah, the mountains are so beautiful. Subhanallah. Look at this beautiful man giving charity and riding his, Bugattis. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, mashallah. This is the mentality, and it's so well, like you've seen it so many times.
I know, Brother Imran's tired of most of us who follow each other's, we're like-minded within the same groups. Yeah, we're tired of the same regurgitated nonsense that doesn't help. Can you tell me what it was that you were looking at here with this Jewish Rabbi Ephraim?
So essentially, I can't find the video at the moment, but you have this concept of, and this is something that it should be very apparent the more you kind of study this kind of Quran-based or Quran alone, Islam movement. I think a lot of people make the mistake to biblicize the Quran. And what that means is you read the Quran as if it's just another chapter of the Bible, basically. So all of the rites and rituals and understandings and historical context are basically just biblical. And the Quran just kind of is like a 3.0 on the same religion. They've done it this way. And I don't blame people, honestly. It's kind of a major, it's ingrained now. So it takes a lot of reprogramming to get out of it. The reason why that's dangerous and they set it up that way is because next to these, or in between these kinds of monolithic giant religions, like you think of Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, right? You have these tiny religions, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Baha'ism, whatever, Mormonism. And these tiny religions, it makes no sense. Why do they get so much funding, like Ahmadiyya and stuff like that, right? Well, it's almost like those are there for some kind of, like, prepared and ready for some kind of transition to those being dominant in the world. And they're kept small, usually. They're very recent. Judaism is the most striking example because of its connection to Ibrahim. And when you think about it, there is no actual Judaism from the Quran that we can point to. There is no actual Christianity, even the Islam in its form today. It doesn't actually pan out in the Quran. You do have these other deens in there, but or other millets, I should say. But they're not given a name.
You've covered some things on your channel, so I'm just pointing to people. Judaisms are not in the Quran, and I know you've got yours.
So they kind of set it up this way, and this is why this rabbi is talking in this way, because he's a Kabbalah teacher. And this is the word, that's used for qibla in Arabic. Qabbala, taqabbala.
Yes.
So it's related to reception and traction.
Right.
And when
Said
he's
again,
talking
it's
about,
related to?
yeah, like reception, that is the meaning of Kabbalah in Hebrew. And qabbal means to receive something, like may Allah receive your fast. Taqabbal Allah. And they always say that after
in that
Ramadan.
sense, it means acceptance. Okay. Receipt of something, yeah? Receipt.
Receipt of something, yeah.
Right.
You're receiving something, some kind of energy or whatever.
That's the closest I could get to in my understanding of Qibla, something that is acceptable to Allah. That's what I think maybe
And
some
also, if you think about it, like the Qibla, because there is a Qibla Allah condones and sanctifies, is literally what you use for any kind of point of attraction. Okay, so like if you have a tourist attraction, the word Qibla is in there.
Right.
So it's something that has an effect on you, and you're drawn to it.
Yes. This is why.
Quite literally.
This is why the Nabi is looking into the heaven.
But there's no direction. Oh, you're right. Yeah. There's no direction needed. It's kind of irrelevant what direction it is, in a sense.
Yeah. There is no actual northeast, southwest, or to this place or to that place. No, it's not like that. I know. Yeah.
Because you can make anything that.
Yeah.
Technically. Now
there's
it is connected to the sun.
A whole can of worms to be opened when you go into why Makkah is not Makkah, as you've shown as well, and why the Qibla is not.
Oh, I know. This is so dangerous. Like it's incredibly dangerous. Because even one like aspect from it is just like you can take one verse from the Quran. Like for example, there's an ayah and there I think it's like we only teach the wahi done. So it's just revelation. That's it. There's nothing beyond that. So in a sense, like if any one variable is out of place in this kind of monolithic kind of Islam, then it's all fake. That's how it is. It's a house of cards to begin with.
Absolutely.
That's how it works.
That's how it has to be. Because if it's from Allah, then there is no holes. Absolutely.
There's no holes. Exactly.
And this is why when we study the Quran, that's what we're doing. So for people to get upset, all we're doing is preserving our own belief, faith.
It's very,
I'm glad you brought this up because that's what I'm doing. That's what anyone with any brain or half a brain would do. Why is what I believe the truth? Let me test it. So that's what we're doing. That's what you're doing. That's what I'm doing. We're testing it, reaffirming our faith.
Exactly. It's the only criterion, the only light, the only guidance, the only remembrance, the only mercy.
There are no holes in it. It explains everything for us. Yeah.
So the reason I bring up this rabbi is because he takes all of the kind of, you could say, promises that Muslims expect, and probably Christians as well, but specifically Muslims because they're the only ones who openly have this concept of the Quran, value to it somewhat, and then Muhammad as well. They believe that Muhammad, he says this openly, Muhammad is Redeemer for the Jews. Yes. That's what he understands. Okay. Does that make sense in any context? Why would he be so crazy to suggest Muhammad is this awaited Redeemer? And they don't use his name all the time, but they kind of slice up pieces of the same thing, kind of reworded it. In a way, Allah does the same thing to kind of make us reflect,
Right.
So he says that there's this promised Messiah, messianic figure, and Islam got it wrong because they say it's Isa, and Christianity got it wrong because they say it's Jesus. But the Jews, they know very well that this promised one is this king, and he's awaited, and he's comes with this law and everything. So isn't it interesting that of the three so-called Abrahamic religions, the small one that stands to gain in any scenario because they kind of allocate two different messiahs, like we mentioned, to these larger religions, they have a concept of one true one.
Right.
And they don't have an antichrist in Judaism. That's very strange.
That is very strange. Yeah. Well,
Why do they also follow the mother rabbinically as well when it comes to classifying who is a Jew? They would say, you should follow the father like, they did in the Old Testament or whatever. But they know very well the nation is tied to the word for mother, ummah.
Right.
The prophet in the Quran is given, he says the women of the prophet are mothers of the believer.
Yes.
We even have al-Kitab, the muhkamat verses.
Yeah, the mother of the book. Yeah.
Ummiyin, the Ummi prophet. So, in a sense, Judaism, the way that they explain it via Kabbalah, like there's so many, they're basically messianic at this point. Kabbalah is essentially messianic. And they have this concept that is always like kind of negating Christianity and Islam. And it's a very kind of balanced approach, even though it's based on a, misunderstanding. But they kind of liken it to, hey, this really is the ultimate thing. That's why they put it first in the succession of Abrahamic religions. They made them this chosen people. They called them Beni Israel.
Yes.
They made them have all of the rights and things like in the Old Testament, Musa makes Hajj as well. And they wear the kind of box on their head as well. Everything in Kabbalah obviously metaphorizes the Quran unrightfully.
Yes.
But at the same time, they put so much knowledge in there, even how they carry the Torah. They put it in this kind of box, and they put this box inside a larger shrine or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like they're literally enacting and there are very like ridiculous rituals in the end. But the point is that what they're trying to teach about this is that they are the real believers.
Yes, yes.
That's all it is.
Because
That's all it is.
and it's easy to make the connection because there are many similarities, as you can see, with this traditional version of Islam.
Basically, I would imagine Judaism, in its current form, is just an amalgam of like Christianity and Islam.
Yes.
What they made of it, right?
Yeah.
Because
that's a pretty I'd say that's a pretty accurate description. Yeah. Yeah.
Even like when you think about Ibrahim's story, this is what they claim to follow, the religion of Ibrahim, right? All three of them somehow. No, that's not the case. What seems to be the case is Ibrahim turned away from his people. He like kind of literally just moved away from them. And hence he has this millet Ibrahim. That's like the precedent since his time. Now his people, they must have had a millet other than that, for he's separated from it. What I think is going on is this culture around Ibrahim's people that's clearly in the Quran. There's many traits of them. They have kind of splintered away into Qaum Fir'aun, Qaum Samiri, the current Beni Israel we see today. All the manifestations of them. That's why they call them Abrahamic religions. They're not talking about Ibrahim. They're talking about his people.
Yes.
What did they worship?
Yep.
They served Ash-Shaytan. It was connected to the sun as well, right? The two Qiblas. The Lord, to him belongs the east and the west, right? So it's almost like what we see, and this is all planned. It's all premeditated. A long plan. They're trying to, in Kabbalah, they say to repair the world. They are light unto the nations. They're the chosen ones. And that's why, like,
doesn't that sound like the Yahud, the description of the Yahud in the Quran? So there is connect. Well, this is why people who don't do the thorough study will believe by just taking some verses. Oh, this is the Yahud, because they can match these qualities. But whereas, that's actually why they're able to make us believe that the Jews are the Yahud in the Quran, because certain qualities do match. But
it makes sense, certain qualities, but not all of them. Right?
Not all of them, exactly.
I mean, look at modern Judaism, for example. There's no concept of heaven, like Jannah. They just believe in the world to come,
Oh, really?
And they,
I wonder
yeah.
that certain someone was trying to tell me that over a year ago. Right.
And
Yes.
guess what? Hell is only temporary, and
Ah.
reincarnation
Hmm.
is a thing.
Okay, yep. So, well, yeah, looks like Zoom has changed a certain feature, trying to get more money out, even though already paying for Zoom. But just like, yeah, as I was just telling you with Amazon Prime, you're already paying, but now they add another, or they limit the feature and ask you for more money.
Mm.
Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. As things go.
yep, yep. Sorry, I forgot where we were. Yeah,
Yeah, I was just gonna explain, like the what they've kind of made from modern Judaism today
that's it. Yep.
is kind of already set it up as this kind of pseudo Quranic, deen in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, there's actually no concept of Jannah, no concept of an eternal hellfire, and they believe that reincarnation is valid to explain away, the fact that there's no judgment actually.
Mm.
Um, they're obsessed with genocide of other nations like Amalek and Edom throughout the Bible. I
Yep.
guess the Jewish Bible
Yep.
and the Old Testament. Very interesting. Similarly to the New Testament, similarly to the Hadith, slanders characters analogous to the Anbiya of the Quran in their stories. So
Mm.
astaghfirullah, you have like examples of Lut, committing incest with his drunk daughters, and
Yes.
astaghfirullah, Dawood commits
Yeah.
adultery with his friend's wife, kills him. Everything about it is just there's no possible way that could be legit.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, the central thing
Mm.
regarding Kabbalah, which is the kind of central text of Kabbalah is called the Zohar.
Mm.
And it's funny that the Zohar is related to the word in Arabic zahar, which is seen as a radiance, right? That's literally what it means in Hebrew is radiance.
Right.
And
Illuminati, illumination.
the word for actually the aurora borealis in Hebrew is Zohar HaKotev,
Right.
the northern Zohar, the
Mm.
pole Zohar. So it's like he's understood that they they have given all the ingredients to make this kind of like Noahide type or kind of a universal approach to monotheism
Mm.
that when they have this kind of like scheduled war, it would after the fact kind of replace all of the concepts and systems that we have now.
Mm.
That's why Judaism believes in the world to come, as if like it's part of the dunya.
Yeah. So going back to where we began with this, the whole thing about what's
Yeah,
taking place right now, this is
yeah,
all steps towards making that happen, right?
yeah. Because what they essentially want is to be this middle nation in
Mm.
between these two, like non-believing, supposedly non-believing, non-monotheistic religions, groups of people. So in the West, Christianity kind of has all the hallmarks of this pharaonic humanist type religion where mankind is exalted to that status, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's they will return that because this culture to make America great again,
Mm.
we don't understand where that greatness is,
Yeah.
what America was in the beginning, the
Mhm.
very beginning.
Mhm.
Same thing with the return of the caliphate. We don't understand what that caliphate actually entails.
Are you on about the golden age?
Yeah, so think about it like this way, right?
Mm.
If you have the Mahdi, who's the Khalif, or maybe it's Isa or something like along those lines,
Mm.
then you will have this return to mass paganism. The reason why is because, like I mentioned briefly, this mother culture, because remember, Ibrahim's called an ummah himself.
Yes.
So his culture is kind of functions like the progenitor of all the other ummahs.
Mhm.
And they say, support your gods.
Yes.
That word is connected to ansuru, nasara,
Right.
struggling and struggling for victory and
Right.
like partisanship. Like what you'll see like in the Islamic world is, and they've already kind of hinted this, right? Like that's why that hadith comes very clearly as a truth in plain sight with the wrong context, that paganism will return to the Arabian Peninsula. Idolatry.
Yes,
They have a form
this
of
is
it
why
right
hadith
now.
has a lot of power, because it has a lot of truth in it. Yeah.
Because these are not actually from Allah. These are from the people that are facilitating these soothsayings. And their directives come from shaitan anyway.
Yeah.
But what you have is basically one side of the world, you'll have this kind of like pseudo religion of, like self-worship in a sense. Just like Pharaoh, he was worshipped as a god, right? And then on the other side, you will have gods, actually. So this is why, like, angels are basically people on that side. People kind of, they know like they don't have the means to try to attempt to immortalize themselves, so they try to become like these angels. Like it's interesting how the Muslims of today dress. Even the priests of the Orthodox Church and monks of Buddhism and stuff,
Yes.
all strive to be this kind of angelic archetype as humans.
Yes.
Because this is what Shaitan promises. Either you become of the immortal or you become of the angels. This is very scary if you're a Sunni Muslim right now, because that means they will start to androgynize your homeland. And they already have started that already in Iran, in like other places in Eurasia. But we're used to thinking all this debauchery comes from the West, and all of the trad stuff comes from the East. But that's just part of reverse psychology. You see? If they make something proliferate that is completely insane, like, modifying your body in that way, in the West, in America, the response to that, because they brought it out too quickly on purpose, the response to that is to move back to this kind of pseudo-conservatism, right?
Right.
Opposite is true for the other side of the world. This is why the qiblas are always related to East and West. Right. So when you think about it, what is the norm in that side? It's harshness, punishment, different, like this kind of barbarism masquerading as the Islam from the Quran. People don't follow that. Years and years of that, they know that's all a scam. So what will happen is, if they actually take that to the next level and bring this kind of actual kind of Sharia, like the Catholic Church, people will rebel against that. That's what the document says. They will facilitate that. So they topple that entire system altogether. So what you have left is something like you have in America, this like identity movements that always belonged in places like the Middle East. Identity. Right. There's entire groups, millions of people that just their entire job is to find their homeland and find the borders of their homeland, like the Kurds or the Israelis or, Palestinians.
Right.
So when you see it, it's like, okay, Qawm Lut is very much this place. It's just pending. It's just pending. This is why women are so disenfranchised, and it's plain to see in this part of the world. Because what that does is it creates an instability in men, so that the more objectified women are, the less they are actually on good terms with women, the less they want to actually be even attracted to women, because there's such a fitna, apparently. If they're the cause of all the problems, you have this like kind of ancient Greek kind of, pederasty and ancient Rome and Pompeii and stuff. That's the irony of it. The people are building these cages around them to facilitate this kind of pseudo hour, in a sense. Because the Jews in the middle, and you can't really call them Jews, but this kind of like third column, let's say, they kind of have already set it up, like they're already kind of diluted in a sense, because there's no way any of that is true. But what they're doing is they're kind of going to come out and claim this. Yeah, this Quran is all about us, and we actually followed it the whole time. We actually, created Hebrew to remember Arabic or something like that. And then,
Yeah. We can see where a lot of the information we were getting a year ago or more, why that was coming in. Yeah.
because look at it, like there's a lot of like what do you call it? Excuses that come out now, like like Arabic 101 Pod YouTube channel. Like they just say, "Oh yeah, Arabic is the foundation of all languages." Why didn't you say that before?
Exactly.
Why now?
Exactly. Instead, they say it came after Hebrew, Aramaic, and
Yeah.
others, yeah.
Now he explains all the other ones, and they're saying too, like how many times have you noticed there are clearly Hebrew influence over the Quran translations? I've seen a lot of them. Instead of asfar being travels, it's books, because sefer is books in Hebrew.
Tell me about that, because as far as I got with asfar was travels. I know we're going to do a separate.
Yeah, it is. You're right, and it's like they made this image in the Muslim world's mind that these are donkeys carrying books, but no, we have a word for books in Arabic. It's travels. So which language uses it for books?
And it's very
Hebrew.
interesting because it's connected to who wrote down the Quran, isn't it? That word.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's save that for the separate session.
Yeah. I just want to mention that modern Judaism today does not see Shaitan as a separate non-human enemy of mankind. That's very dangerous. That's incredibly existential threat. Because if they make that as the kind of foundation of what the new religion will be, the new world order religion, you can imagine who they will worship as God then.
Yeah. Well, this is why I'm glad I've done some of the work that I've done recently. It feels hard to do, and I can tell why it's hard to do to begin with, or even heavy afterwards, because obviously I think it's dangerous it's helpful for the right people, dangerous to the wrong people. But yeah, as you just said, because they're trying to, in the latest one, it's clear who's the enemy, the one who's whispering. Who is the whisperer?
There you go.
Yeah, who's the whisperer? Who is the one who's the avowed enemy, the clear Aduwwul Mubin. Yeah, whereas everyone is being trained into looking for all these other enemies, right? Antichrist, Dajjal, etc. Everything to divert us from the core essence of what is in the Quran. And I know it's hard to say. I mean, it's not like it is simple, but it takes work to ponder over and think and study and read.
Yeah.
But I think you're like me. We're left away with some serious freedom and simplicity when we do read Quran, as opposed to what they're trying to teach us, which is confusing and complex and doesn't quite fit. And we just have to trust them. And it makes sense what you're saying. That from these people is coming the doctrine of no eternal heaven or no eternal hell. What did you say?
All of it. I mean, temporary hell. No concept of Jannah. Because the heavens are just like the kind of structure of the universe. It's not a place of salvation. Reincarnation. Becoming norm. That's antithetical in a sense to the idea of resurrection, or what you would call qiyamah, right? That you come in the same body, the same soul in the same body. Like it's like reincarnation makes it that people can be gods, right? Because they'll say, "Oh, I am the reincarnation of this prophet, or I'm the reincarnation of Jesus, or I'm the reincarnation of whatever." So they don't even have to look the part, because you can't even prove anything. I mean, it's like why they push a lot of the New Age stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
Because the New Age stuff doesn't require a creator. Actually, it's completely Gnostic.
This is the difficulty I find, because we find so much benefit coming from there, but we can clearly tell that there is something terribly wrong at its core.
That's right. Yeah, it was popularized, and if you notice, a lot of the kind of people are surprisingly Kabbalah followers.
Yeah.
You can find so many, like Tucker Carlson, red string bracelet, Putin, red string
Did you say
bracelet,
red
all the
bracelet?
celebrity.
Did you say?
Yeah, the red string. Yeah. And what's funny is it's kind of like so obvious that this thing that calls itself Kabbalah is just this superstitious like mind melt that if all of the celebrities are doing that, okay, officially, why would I want to even be associated with that?
Yeah,
at all?
Absolutely.
Look at how their lives are. Look at what kind of people they are. What they even are portrayed as. I mean, they're idols. They're called idols.
Yeah.
Oh, it's what I should say as well is
yeah, just for people to know who, well, I'm sure some people do know, but yeah, Madonna, Leonardo,
yeah,
and Jolie wearing these red bracelets. Yeah.
Yeah, all the Chabad rabbis, if you just find like images like Chabad and politicians or governments, they're with every government in the world. That's what that video showed, a map of all the Chabad houses around the world in every country, pretty much. What is the stranglehold of this like group of people? They have to picture themselves with every head of state.
Yeah.
Even some like random Pacific islands, they have photos of Chabad with those governments even. There's no history of Judaism even there.
Yeah.
Kabbalah is basically Millet Iblis. That's what it reduces down to, because it allows you to believe in everything that seems universal on the surface, but is founded and grounded in superstition and shirk.
Right.
That's how you can recognize it, actually. If something doesn't make sense to you, there's no process, there's no like wisdom or explanation to it. It's just this excuse. Like if I tell you, if you wear these shoes, then you will actually get more light in your body. There's no way for you to prove that, verify that. Like the Sadiqeen are supposed to verify things. And you believe in a delusion because you're attributing something to this material world, to the creation, whether it's a man or a statue or a jinn. I think it's very telling why there are 6 genders in Kabbalah as well.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I've never gone into Kabbalah much, but what I will say is that someone introduced me, one of our brothers on our groups introduced me to this person's work very recently, and he knows a lot about the occult that he used to be into, and he's making the case that those who are following the Quran, they're basically immune to a lot of the evil effects that are out there. He was saying that he was at a point where he was faced with either the Kabbalah or the Quran, and he realized when he was looking at the Kabbalah that he realized that the big alarm bell was when they were justifying the death of like lots of people. They'd say that this happened because, for example, a tsunami wiping out. They say, yeah, but the good thing about that was that these businesses were created and people were made money from this. And you can just tell where this narrative is going and what it's where it's coming from. It's against our fitra, which is it's against the Quran. Allah says the death of one person is like the death of all of humanity.
Absolutely.
The saving of one life. And for them, this narrative is no, but it's okay for these people to die because, and they'll have justifications. It's okay for this many people to die because. So that's when
you've heard those rabbis, right? Where I'm sure since October 7th, where they will say, well, you can't actually, astaghfirullah, kill children because they will grow up to be these, mercenaries and terrorists and stuff, right? No, it's not. It's not okay to do that. That's insanity. And I think when it comes to what the religions in the world are today, actually. Because you said he kind of chose in between Kabbalah and the Quran. It's so interesting because if I were to do the practices of a Sunni Muslim, I would unknowingly follow Kabbalah. Same thing in Christianity, because I'm ascribing something without knowledge to Allah. to what I see Allah as.
Mhm.
And the same thing is said for Fir'aun's religion, actually.
Mm.
So when Fir'aun says, I have not known you to have a God other than me,
Mm.
that's towards the people and everyone underneath him in the hierarchy.
Mhm.
He is told by his advisors, do you want Musa to drive you from the land and remove your gods?
Mhm.
Fir'aun has his own gods just for him. Everyone below him follows the Kabbalah of some lesser, system.
Mm.
So the people that teach it don't actually follow what they teach, essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I get it at is, like maybe this androgyny is actually, if you think about it, if you just search on images rebus, Rebus,
Mhm.
that's the goal of Kabbalah and Gnosticism. Oh, not that. Just search rebus like Adam or something like that. Alchemy. There you go. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah.
It's a merging of male and female.
Male and female, yeah.
Because Kabbalah understands, astaghfirullah, God to be androgynous.
Yeah, yeah, I know. This is when I started to think I've had enough of some of the people commenting on our work, saying, that Adam is androgynous, Adam is not,
No,
and all of
they
these.
believe Shaitan is actually the highest servant of God because he protects the secrets. He did not submit when he was told to prostrate, right? And that shows that he's not an idolater and he passed the test. No, we have a different account. We have the actual account, which says that he
Again,
was
all of
from the
this,
Kafirin.
yeah, what you're saying, it just takes, it's plucking things out and ignoring others. That's how these
Right.
follow these books, plucking things out, ignoring others. Whereas those who are dedicated to the Quran will do their study on a certain topic and understand that topic really well,
Yeah.
as opposed to
Yeah.
being influenced by narrations outside of the Quran, which tell them something different, which makes them actually reject even verses of the Quran by
Big
following
deal.
that
Yep.
narration.
That's the amazing thing is the Quran is this filter. It's a Furqan in a sense. It takes all the corruptive elements from a person that is corrupt and increases them.
Amazing.
If they're guided, then it removes them and it increases the things in guidance. It's a beautiful thing. Like this dunya is allowed to be corrupted in a sense
Beautiful.
because it's supposed to be like when you have a fever and everything feels terrible, but it's necessary to root out all of the impurities, all of the kind of toxicity.
Yeah.
So it can be excised in one swoop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's no coincidence they have this lunar and solar symbolism.
Yes.
And then they give the chosen people a star, right, in the middle.
Yeah.
The star that kind of like sits well with the idea. They're in the middle of the world. They're in Jerusalem. They're everything around this concocted, and it is concocted thing is, it's meant to be small because they understand from the Quran the believers will be small, so they have to replicate that in a way by not allowing conversion.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So it's
yeah. So you also shared you were looking at this video as well. Could you just trying to keep today's conversation around what's happening again in the world. Well, in my case, UK, but yeah, pretty much everywhere in the world. Things rising up. But before we get to that, I just want to quickly go through. So there was this. I'm sure it's changed over time. This is going back before 2022, I think even, early 2022, I had this. So yeah, all of these things laid out, but you can tell why people get this information. It's not that it's been leaked or that they've found information. It's out there, but it still gives us an idea of what could be coming. And if you look at it, I mean, COVID-21 did not happen. I'm just pointing out a few things. We were expecting blackouts to occur. They seem to be increasing or heading that way. If you look at what happened in Bangladesh, the Ukraine incident did happen. Capital protests did happen. Many of these things, mask mandates, gun restrictions, universal basic income. Again, I'm not going through this. There is a whole list of what we can expect to occur.
Yeah.
Here we have interesting towards the end, a war, or a very big war.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the point is, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because what's happening right now is just an attempt to rise those tensions to,
Yeah.
it's through fear. It's through fear and confusion and desperation that measures can be placed, put in place, and people
Right.
very quickly accept them. We understand how this works. So that's why, I mean, we have no control over what our exact future is. Yeah, we have only certain control within ourselves, I guess, and those around us. But the main point I wanted to make was that what's happening right now is to raise those tensions, raise those fears,
That's right.
bring about something. So yeah, do you have anything on
So
that?
yeah, what you're saying about this kind of like fanning the flames of the respective, ahzab, as you can see, is that they're pretty much mutually exclusive in a sense, right? And that's actually the danger, is that of the two sides, that they're kind of steel manning at the moment, because they give justification to both. It's like when you put that sheikh on, like that you had in the tab there.
Yeah.
I think he's at Ustad, but same idea.
Yeah.
This is not a, like, you just have to look at this. This is not a Muslim person. Like, this is like a rabbi, basically. This is not a, like, this person is what Allah accuses, the people of taking as lords before even Isa ibn Maryam, way before.
Yes.
So
this is the beauty.
I think
it's the same thing that's happened throughout time. It's not that there's new religions. It's not that there's new scholars. It's not that there's new types like rabbis today and there weren't before.
No.
The Quran is talking about all time. Yeah.
They should. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the if you were living in the time of Firaun, what we're told of Firaun, that's exactly how they would dress. They would have these kind of like hats where they just like drapes on their head. That's exactly the Egyptian headdress. Same thing.
Yeah.
And what I want to get from this idea of the instability in the world, there's always a trigger.
Yeah.
Always. For America, I would say what happened, like in July at that rally with Trump was clearly a trigger. Clearly. And yeah, like it's kind of like enamored just the right people, and everyone else that saw through it, they were just kind of already not even on board. But that's the thing, and they do this kind of social engineering so easily, where they come out with the kind of band-aid on the ears and solidarity. They do that with every shooting, with every kind of attack or anything. They have this kind of coming together of bonding over this thing, this tragedy or this fear.
Trump is the most salient example, in the world. But everyone else is just the same, like Tommy Robinson right now as well.
And they've been around for years. They've been just waiting to get their moment in the limelight.
All groomed, yeah. I don't need to.
He's visited Israel so many times. It's like, it's not a coincidence whatsoever. And even the likes of, I would say, what's his name? The Five Pillars, guy. He is very volatile for anything outside of the framework of Sunni Islam. There's a reason for that. Like, how do all of these platforms, even Imran Hussein, even everybody has their little camp.
Yes.
And what's interesting about that is they're trying to really agitate the boundaries that are already set up between people. So let's say you wear hijab now in the UK. They've been telling women, oh, you have to wear hijab. You have to do this. It's a must. It's part of everything. It's like you're not a Muslim without it. Well, try doing that now in the UK. You're afraid for your safety.
Yeah.
And the whole point of the modesty in the Quran is to not be harassed right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. You've made a very good point. Yes. So that's actually what Allah says, for them to cover certain areas so then they are not harassed, and
yeah,
they are covering areas where they're not told to cover, and they are being harassed because of that. It's ironic.
yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Both sides,
Yeah.
let's just say the kind of white Christians, non-white Muslims. It's a simplification, obviously,
Yeah.
but both sides have already agreed how they're going to frame everything.
Yeah.
And it's just so like perfect, like maybe it is due to human stupidity at the end of the day, but I feel like it's guided by something.
Mm.
When you talk about from the kind of far right side, it's always like, oh, they raped this woman and they did this and they destroyed this shop and they burned this car down. It's always dehumanizing, and it never ever touches any fault from that side, rightfully.
Yeah.
Same thing on the Muslim side. If there's any bad actors, they just kind of scrub them off and say, well, he's crazy or he's not a real Muslim or anything.
Yeah.
Like kind of the no true Scotsman theory,
Yeah.
And then when it's something where they're victimized,
Mm.
it's like you never hear the end of it. They just like kind of grieve and grieve and grieve without thinking, okay, maybe like there has to be a middle. They have to come to like a middle ground at some point, right? Because they coexist. Like you can't evict people from their homes. You can't, do these things. But this is what's happening right now, is that, like you're saying in the UK, right? There's a massive population there. And I have to wonder, why did they allow that to happen in the UK, if not planning way, way in advance?
Yes, this is all definitely planned. I remember when I was in college, all, the topics of education at that point, about how multicultural, well, in sociology class, how multiculturalism has failed. Even back then, I remember, all of this talk.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this, there's a reason why. Yeah, they've been building this up for a long time, for sure. This whole rising the tensions between you could say whites and Asians.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter which way you look at it, Muslims and Christians, whites and Asians, or who classes themselves as true Brits or immigrants.
I mean,
it really doesn't matter. Yeah.
No, it doesn't, because that attack, whatever that attack was, it was not even a Muslim guy. That he was not even from anything you would consider from that part of the world, in a way. Like some Rwandan guy went crazy, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's a tragedy, but you see how things are framed to only give you the information and details after the damage has been done, after the rift has opened up. When I think back, it makes a lot of sense that all of this stuff is surrounding the election in November in the US.
Yeah. And building up, because this is how you get it.
It's a little trial, in a sense, in the UK.
But that's why, going back to these waves, we understand how this works. It's building up that tension and then giving. Again, it's going back to the whole, what is it, the victim psychology. Was it the Stockholm syndrome? The oppressor, but then showing you a bit of love, giving you a break, and then coming back, and then you making excuses for the oppressor again.
Just the boiling frogs, it's like
the boiling frog.
The same day Bangladesh went into just a turmoil, right? We had a blackout around the world. Systems all around the world.
Oh yeah,
particularly where I am.
Microsoft thing,
Microsoft, July 19th, of course, and it's so interesting because I've never even heard of this company in charge of that security. And they said, no, it's not a cyber attack or anything, even though they've done exercises, literally, like here in Canada in July, I think in 2022, there was an exercise planned and some event for months in advance. And they said, the Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum kind of Bond supervillain, he's saying, well, we're going to plan, an event in July, cybersecurity thing, blah, 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 blah. So that's exactly what happened. July comes, nobody can use their phone across Canada for a couple of days. And, like,
it just dawns on me that, okay, this is, and you know what's funny is that's the same time where Japan's prime minister was assassinated, Shinzo Abe.
Yes, I remember now. I remember now. Yes.
So it's amazing to me that it does seem like what's going on in the UK definitely makes sense, that this is like a trial run.
Yeah.
What can happen in America?
Yeah.
Revolving around the election in advance, so they get some data, they crunch the numbers a bit. So when the trigger happens there, because now, I mean, there's a new candidate against Trump. She's a woman, apparently. I mean, and she is not like from, like, she's got, you know, Indian ethnic background, black ethnic background, Jamaican. So
Kamala
you can
Harris.
see
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, yeah. And she's got an Arabic name as well. So Kamala means completing, I think, Kammal. And what's interesting about that is you have, again, like, what is it supposed to be? November 5th. Okay, it's going back to V for Vendetta. November 5th is election day in the US.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot.
Nice.
That's something that stuck with me since I watched that movie.
Yeah. Very powerful. The whole V. This is definitely magic. That's why it's capturing our minds, because it's
Look at, okay, can you search Ingsoc, INGSOC?
Yeah, just once.
Because I think I just noticed some kind of glaring similarity to this movie. So if you just search INGSOC, it's a V. That also takes place in the UK.
Yeah.
But it's not called the UK, it's called Oceania.
Right.
And it's called Oceania because it basically forms what you would imagine NATO, its allies, would be. Australia, UK, not mainland Europe, not necessarily. That's taken by Eurasia. And then it goes back to the whole, like, Imran Hussein, Alexander Dugin kind of. Alexander Dugin has said Kabbalah is the greatest achievement of mankind. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you see that Oceania is basically kind of the Western sphere of influence, okay, why did we have this referendum in the UK for Brexit? What was the point of that? Well, they got all these people riled up, say, "Oh, we should be in the EU. EU is bad for our economy and everything." And so they got out of it to isolate them economically, politically, every way from mainland Europe. Because something's going to happen with mainland Europe. You know, the far right protests and all this stuff. They are all cemented now in Western Europe, even Eastern Europe. And so, who is funding this? What are these movements based on, by the way, the far right? Well, they go back to the pagan times. They go back to the Vikings, and they go back to the Romans, and they go back to the Greeks. They're trying to restore some kind of a glory that's pre-Abrahamic in those countries.
Right.
Neo-paganism has taken off in Europe, really. And it makes sense. I mean, even the kind of former political party with a crooked cross on its flag in the 40s,
yes,
they have all those elements as well. They have all those kind of, like, Germanic kind of pan-Norse. This party in V for Vendetta is called Norse Fire.
This party in V for Vendetta is called Norse Fire, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Norse Fire.
Interesting. Okay.
Germanic, pan-Germanic. Yeah. And he's a chancellor.
Right. Yes. Okay. We see this everywhere as well, yeah.
Strength through unity, unity through faith. Faith in what? Unity with whom? And, it's interesting, like, I don't know what it is about the UK. I mean, It's like the most relevant kingdom in the world, apparently. And when you see like they tell us all of these things together. Like, think about red and black, right? It's just almost a parody of what you see all over. All the kind of communists, all the fascists, they'll have this red and black because this is something like really. Remember, we talked about Gog and Magog. This kind of red and blue.
I knew I had to speak to you today about V for Vendetta. I can see why now.
Well, what's funny is, this is a revolution taking place in a sense, slowly but surely. These are the colors of revolutionaries. This is what
I mean. My aim is to try to appease and try to kind of calm down the tensions. Anyone listening.
Oh yeah.
But the reality is, yes, you can't avoid the reality, and the reality is that it's possible. Again, it's hard for me to say this. I'd say this privately, but it's hard for me to say this publicly. But yes, you have to be willing to die for the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're willing to give up everything eventually for the truth. And that's going to be the test. May Allah protect us. May Allah make us successful. But you can see what, eventually what it doesn't look good, yes, for the future.
So
but that's what the Quran is teaching us, right? About Pharaonic time, about Musa alayhi salam's time, about leaving the oppressor, about waiting for that moment, or taking the opportunity to follow Allah's guidance when Allah makes it out. It's all there in the Quran for a very good reason.
Right now, there's a huge tense situation between Israel and Lebanon, right?
Right.
And it's not looking good. It's only deteriorated since they started to kind of predict a war ensuing from that.
This is something we expected as well. It's just a case of when.
Yeah, it's
part of that whole. What is it? Part of that whole expansion of Greater Israel, isn't it? That's what it is. It's part of the plan, yeah.
That's what this rabbi also mentioned as well.
Yeah,
and I think it could even be the case that it wouldn't be inconceivable if Israel just moved to Ukraine.
If you see this, there's
an interesting idea.
All of this geopolitics that we learned through Brendan O'Connell, what you're speaking of, even Alexander Dugin, what he says about the of Ukraine, the heartland, as they say. What do they call it? The motherland.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they've already decided in the alternative history, the alternative chronology, that Ukraine is Becca, Crimea specifically, and Mecca is basically Russia. Mecca is just, like they've already decided that, as if it's going to be transferred in a way to create this kind of like Eurasia, East Asia, and Oceania thing that you have in 1984, and you also have it in Alexander Dugin's multipolar world.
Yeah.
It has to all come to fruition.
Is it a surprise that you're starting to see more people pick up on the Sheikh Imran Hussein eschatology narrative?
Yeah.
They used to in the past, but it looks like as if they won't give him. This is the funny thing. I mean, we know it's not, we know it's based on falsehood, but it's funny how they won't give him the light of day, but they're actually repeating that he's saying.
They have to. It's exactly like that Harun Yahya guy from Turkey, where he's saying like, we're fighting the free Masonic New World Order, us, the Muslims and the Jews and the Christians. We're fighting for our traditions against them. Like Putin is fighting the New World Order. This is the same rhetoric all the time. When you look at this video that you mentioned, look at the title, The Destruction of Medina and the Greater Israel. And then, that's just like a few minutes allocated in the video. It's mostly not about that. But they made that the thumbnail, maybe for clickbait, because that to me could be the trigger for the Muslim world.
Yeah.
Because, one side in this conflict that's ensuing, I pray to Allah that doesn't get to that point. But, this is something we have to kind of, believe, in a sense, we trust in Allah, right? That He knows exactly what. So one side is called the party of Allah, Hezbollah. One side is called Israel, Bani Israel. So what you see now is this symbolic kind of tit for tat. That's literally what it is. To represent a greater conflict, because obviously the history of humanity is not reduced to that, few square miles of land. And he is saying, this sheikh, quoting hadith, that when Al-Aqsa is liberated, because that's what the whole thing is about, from Jerusalem, Medina will be destroyed. And how interesting enough that one of, I think, the Al-Aqsa complex, the most famous imagery, even though it's not actually the Al-Aqsa mosque, but the Masjid Al-Aqsa complex, the central point is that golden dome. Is that they call the kind of Sakhra mosque or whatever.
It's all just symbolism, therefore.
Yes, symbolism. The same thing can be said for Masjid al-Nabawi, the green dome. So I think
so it's almost like as if they got people to be focused, put all of their time, money, and energy into this one concocted place, and then fight over this place that they made up, and then to the point where what the blind Muslims believing this narrative, when they believe, for example, that they have actually liberated, or they've won now, has lost, and now they're going to see the next step in place, which is the destruction of Medina. This is what you're getting to, isn't it?
Because here's the thing.
This is what is next. But whereas actually,
what's the next kind of Pearl Harbor moment, right?
But whereas this was actually the plan to begin with, for them to take over this place, for the quote unquote Jews to take over.
That's it. Yeah. Why would they allow all of that? That was
Avi Lipkin. Is it the Avi Lipkin talking about the return of the Jews to Makkah? I think, is that right?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, because I think there was this kind of rabbi talking about Musa, and Moses in the Bible asks Pharaoh to let his people go so they can make Hajj. I think that's the one you're talking about. I'm not sure, but they see Mecca as their kind of thing. That's why, that's the guy. I remember this guy. So that's why, in the Western Wall, right? There's a wall mentioned in Musa's story in the Quran, actually.
Right.
And the whole thing. I mean, exactly how they dress as exactly as they're these prophets, and they're these Levitic kind of Cohenite lineage from them, and it's all confirmed. You don't have to go back thousands of years to confirm it, but it's they give them this story. It's like, imagine if you grew up in a world where you're told you're the main character the whole time without doing anything, just being descended from these kind of bloodlines, and then everyone else is an extra. Everything outside of that is just like, who cares if they die or not? This is what they teach in Israel. They teach the kids, the innocent children. They radicalize them at a young age. Why is that the case?
I have some. I mean, when all of this took place, again, I kept quiet because I know people will they'll do the whole virtue signaling. When it came to the whole Palestine thing, but I just kept on a low radar about it. I managed to survive not saying anything about it up until.
Look, it's obvious, in the Quran, the people that are oppressed, Allah automatically favors them. Just automatically, because they have less of an avenue for, that's just how it is.
We can speak about it from a humanity perspective. That's different.
That's exactly it. Yeah, exactly. So when he says, okay, leave the earth, migrate, move away from the oppression if you can. Those who don't, it's kind of like, well, either they can't, and that's unfortunate. That's the unfortunate tragedy, is there is no means for a lot of people to move. So Allah knows, He takes that into account. No problem.
But this is what they do when they were doing the whole COVID jabs. It had to begin in Israel first. Why? Because this was place for the rest of the world to follow suit. And as you showed with that video last year with Max Egan, what's taking place there is a template for the rest of the world to follow suit.
Yeah, that's how they see it. That's how they see it.
Yeah. So so with this, okay, so with okay, so moving on from
what he said in that video, this rabbi in a thawb, he said that the destruction of Medina will be the awakening of the Muslims.
Oh, is that what he said? Okay.
Verbatim. So that is a clue to me, because these people like are Kabbalists, like they make all these rules with zero input. It's a superstition. They create so many problems in people's minds with obsessions and compulsions. And when he's saying, like, he's talking about like the red cow, what does that have anything to do with Islam or the Quran whatsoever?
Well,
it has a lot to do with Judaism.
I think that's funny, because when we did me and Brother Imran did the Joel video, I didn't even have to touch the red cow. That's how ridiculous it is. You're making your point. You didn't even have to get to the red cow. That's how much of a time waste it is. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's like, it's completely unfounded. I mean, it's not even in hadith. So why is this kind of Abrahamic Accords and this kind of Kabbalization of the world given so much attention by everyone?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing that there are Zionists that actually believe Mecca belongs to them because of these books and these kind of concepts from the Bible. They even say, like, how they actually pray towards Mecca or something beforehand, the Jews or something. And it's such a play. Like, I don't know. It's it could go either way. But you remember that I Pet Go 2 video? And it was like reposted recently by the maker of it, apparently.
Okay.
There's a scene in there where there is a mosque destroyed. And
Yes,
it's destroyed by
I know this very well. I used to study this because I used to believe in the eschatology. And I remember you're speaking about where the lady is in the scarf and the child is dying, and what looks like a cathedral tower is falling down or something. Go
There's a lot in there that's not made by an ordinary person. It's like kind of like a unseen soothsaying knowledge from beyond, distorted in a way.
Award-winning 3D animated short film. Award. Anyway,
that's a repost. I think the original kind of Heliofont channel. They actually after 12 years since they first uploaded it, they reposted it in May. After a solar eclipse and after an auroral ejection. And it's interesting to me that 12 years would make it the same kind of year in the astrological calendar, like the year of the dragon. And the whole thing revolves around the pet goat. And the pet goat is a reference to the book, or not even a book, it's like a study exercise read on the fateful day in September. So this has in the title Pet Goat 2. Where's Pet Goat 1? Why does it automatically start with 2? As if it's like a sequel. Well, if Pet Goat 1 was this calamity in New York, I mean, that by now I think people would understand what that is about, I would imagine.
Beyond about that.
Then, because think about it, it did trigger a war. It did trigger all kinds of changes that we will never ever go back to that world before that year. It even happened with the World Trade Center. What is the World Trade Center according to Islam? Is Mecca. Mecca is the center of world trade. The city of all the caravans, they go in and they collect all from Syria, from Yemen. They enter the mawaqit, the miqat of the haram, and then they sell their wares. Obviously that doesn't work in Saudi Arabia, but nonetheless, this is what this concept is. So there were 2 towers and they formed into one. This is Kabbalistic. One World Trade Center. So the whole world sees this description of Mecca for this kind of New York, kind of on the western seaboard, right? Well, what happens right after that is you see an image of a stealth bomber, 3 of them, just annihilating a mosque, the dome of a mosque, particularly the dome. If you just look at a still of that image, and it's a very quick film, you have to put it down like, very slow speed because it happens so fast to make it subliminal. There is something in the bottom right corner that looks very similar to Al-Masjid al-Haram today. And then there is something, these large towers that you expect to see if you ever go for Hajj or Umrah today, which I would say, don't waste your money.
Directly, whereabouts?
Keep going. So that's the first pet goat. Okay, you see this guy, and you see a flood. Yeah, so this is like very obvious, there's some kind of eschatology associated. Okay, I think you maybe keep going, sorry. Okay, right there. So go back a few seconds. Just like a couple. Yeah, right there. Okay. So when you press play, what it says in his eyes is markets plunge, literally, because New York is flooded. Okay. And it says war coverage.
Yeah.
So there's a war directly after. These are the bombers.
Yeah. Markets plunge. Yeah.
War coverage.
Yeah.
So you have this boom.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
Just pause it right there. Oh, okay. I just wanted to show, like the actual.
Shall I go back?
What's around that? Yeah, just go back. Yeah. So there's a shake cam on this. I know there's probably a delay in the recording, but basically you want to pause when it shows you the full kind of landscape of this incident. Right there. Okay, this is key, right? And I remember talking to Brother Walid about this very same thing because it really caught my attention looking back at it again. This scene right here is not random. They didn't just kind of make this scenery for artistic usage.
Yeah, I'll put a real slow speed. Hold on.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So you see the explosion, you see the planes, the kind of UFOs, they come over. And if you pause it right now, there's three things of significance, clearly. Now, never mind the whole word's frozen, okay, and some climate change. But this mosque is kind of put on a pedestal with a minaret. It's clearly a mosque. There's no mistaking it. Next to it, you have these tall buildings, modern tall buildings. Next to that, what is that in the bottom right corner? Well, the only thing that looks like is this kind of center, exactly like if you just search online, bird's eye view of Masjid al-Haram. That's the first thing that comes to mind. So we're not in the West anymore, like with the Statue of Liberty and with, the kind of buildings going down. And then there's that school in Florida. So because they put the school in Florida where Pet Goat was read, you see that? So that picture where it says 10 best places on the bottom to visit in Mecca, that's literally what's shown there in a sense. And it's kind of hard because it's not zoomed in as much in the video, but that's exactly what is meant to be shown, I think.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
That's the World Trade Center in Islam. And Pet Goat 2 is this incident.
Well,
I think
it's probably the most expensive place on the world.
It is. Yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah.
$1 billion. I mean, I've been putting some of this information in the recent videos, just really making me realize, oh my God, it's in here in Yomul Jummah. The main point I'm making is how the mosques, they take in lots of money every week, and how the Arab world actually has lots of money, and is the problem with the Palestinians should have been resolved
easily.
Yep. With the wealth and power that is there. Again, it's in the video here. I'm not going to go through it now, but the wealth and the power that's there. Yeah, people should be wondering what is. It's weird that things were left to continue the way they did.
Yeah.
Really, there's
Yeah.
something else at play.
You just couple that video that was first released in 2012 for an American audience with what that sheikh said about Medina will be destroyed. Because Mecca and Medina are always put together. This is the whole prophetic seerah, we're told, right?
Yeah.
This is where he found refuge. So it's like
They say Medina will become Yathrib.
Yeah, how poetic
Yeah.
that in that hadith it says that this is what signals a war. Because I really hope I'm wrong, okay? This is not meant to
this is hilarious.
force anything. We don't know the future. We don't know. They can
It's
change the
hilarious
plan.
that they started off this video talking about the update on the red cow sacrifice. It's hilarious.
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's like they actually never leave anything left out.
You know, honestly, it doesn't matter. The fact that the reality is the truth would always remain amongst the minority.
Exactly.
It's not about waking up. I mean, listening to this person here, Mark Windows, it just reminded me that this is what happens to all of us that speak the truth. It does get marginalized. It does become smaller and less paid attention to, but that is the nature of how truth.
Yeah, that's why I believe converting to Islam is a bit of a misnomer, because if that is the case, then there is, I mean, you just reduce the religion to a few words, essentially. Like it's that bad. Allah does not allow that at all with anything that He is from Him, essentially. That it's incorruptible things that are from Allah. So when I think back, you know, like, okay, so they've always had this idea.
Wait, before if you could hold.
Oh yeah.
Just I want to ask you. Okay, so what is Masih to you? Because I thought Masih is simply the anointed one or the touched one or the chosen one. And I think you were saying as well that this title isn't necessarily exclusive to Isa.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so think about it. We're told explicitly Al-Masih ibn Maryam, Al-Masih Isa ibn Maryam. And he has kind of a charmed life in a sense, because he has these clear signs. I mean, this is why the people at the time of Isa, Allah says, if you disbelieve in him after this, they will be punished twice. Like there's a clear sign. Like he's a walking sign, essentially.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked is because people would ask me when I did the whole disproving that he's returning, and I emphasized about that, they would say, okay, so what's special about the Messiah then? Yeah, there is special.
Okay, here's the thing. So,
as you just mentioned about, you know, the signs that he came with, that was special. So he was definitely special. And
Muslims, like the likes of, well, I don't know, I struggle to call them Muslims here and there, but you know, like the likes of Sheikh Uthman ibn Farouk, he openly says to Christians, Messiahship is not exclusive to one person, one Nabi. They already agree. So it's, yes, there is Al-Masih, sure, but that is a title at the end of the day.
That's why.
And here's the thing too.
An anointed one, a chosen one by Allah, one chosen by Allah.
Yeah. So what I kind of see happening is, you look at all of the evidences of Isa's, because he was kind of in this kind of kafir society. So his role requires Allah to allow him permission to do these evidences, bringing people from the dead back to life, multiplying food, like he brings this abundance of food. He knows what they store in their houses, essentially, of food and what they eat. He heals people of diseases, heals people of conditions. They try to kill him, and it actually doesn't work. So essentially, he brings to life inanimate objects to become living birds, right? So everything about his signs are conducive to this kind of spirit, ar-ruh, that can only have a positive effect on the world. So let's say you have, I mean, even somebody that's a corpse was brought back to life. Like, is that powerful? what he was given permission to do.
Mm.
What's interesting about that is Allah makes it a point. The 2 times Jesus in the Quran is talked about raising the dead.
Mm.
From his perspective, he says, I raise the dead back to life, because that's what he sees.
Mm.
From Allah's perspective, he says, yukhrij. Allah sees the actual process. So that's why Allah, when he mentions it, he's saying this is how it is brought to life, like all the other natural phenomena.
Exit.
What Masih, what Masih, it's amazing, right? The details in the Quran.
Absolutely.
Al-Masih is mentioned, when it comes to this concept of cleanliness with water. And the word is like mashan, wiping. Okay.
Yes.
So clearly there is some kind of impurity that requires mashan, whatever. It's like when you would wipe your hands of something, or you'd wipe, whatever, maybe a table.
Like Sulaiman alayhi salam, he wiped his hands on the horse's legs.
Right. So you see that there is like I've looked at the kind of etymology of Masih, and there is a spatial component to Masih. That's what it seems to be. Like when someone's called a surveyor, they're like a masih or something. Like I can't remember the exact words, but basically all the words made from that root convey some kind of spatial understanding. Now with that, you have this person in the Quran called Al-Masih ibn Allah. That's one phrase taken in itself. And this is who the Nasara, this is their claim. At the end of the day, Yahud have another contender. So when it seems like that's just Jesus Christ, that's not very apparent to me, because Allah would not allow this, like, the idea that he's innocent of all these things ascribed to him. Muhammad, same thing. Be patient over what they say, right? Because they slander him to this day. Al-Masih ibn Allah is not a possibility in the reality. So that thing is like very possibly like something else. I'm not sure what that is. It could be this title is just put on and worshipped as this kind of divine figure.
Right.
It could apply to Isa, obviously, but his name is not there in that verse, which leads me to believe Al-Masih is a title that just the Prophet Muhammad, being the Khatam al-Nabiyyin, would fulfill in and of himself. There's even a mention of this in the Quran. Those who follow the Ummi Nabi. And it's in chapter 7. And basically, somewhere down the line, it says, Yuhillu for you at-tayyibat. And harrama upon you the khuba'ith. What that translates
stuff,
yeah. But there is literally like this filth, khuba'ith. You can find in that root that it's like a metastasis of something. Like it's a propagating corruption of like a cancerous kind of epidemic of something. Like just like, it moves out of control. The Prophet was able to correct that. It's not just, he forbids you from bad things. That's not fit the way that's worded. Allah gave all of his messengers some aspect of like superiority, so they can be shown with authority in their message. And the Prophet Muhammad is so impressive because he seems to relate to all of the other ones in many ways. There's another instance of this where people assume the Prophet Muhammad is killed or dead. They ask, like, if he was to be killed, if he were to die, would you turn back on your heels? You know what's interesting about that? And it's in this actual video that was, I can't find anymore, about this Rabbi Ephraim Palvanov. He talks about this idea called Ikvut HaMashiach. That translates to, in Arabic, heels of the Messiah. In the Quran, it says, would you turn back on your heels? Heels of the Messiah is a rabbinical Jewish understanding of the end times. That's it. That's all it is.
Right.
The time period prior to this return of this anointed, awaited, promised salvation kind of figure.
Mm.
And every religion has this, every single one.
Right.
And they all revolve around
Yeah.
some kind of a person that is meant to speak to humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Who fits the description of that solely? And it just makes sense. I mean, I have a live stream about, the Prophet Muhammad and
I know, I know where
but
you,
it's
I
a
know where
long
your
thing.
beliefs.
But let's just say,
I know
for
your
sake of
beliefs.
argument,
I'd rather, yeah. For me, I think
let's,
you're on. I think you've got something, and you know this. We spoke about this. What is it? Almost a year ago for the first time.
yeah.
Spoke about this, and we saw the reaction from people as well.
I know. I'm just trying to stay kind of, let's say, hypothetical.
I'm actually beyond trying to protect.
That's
I'm
good.
beyond that now. I'm over all of that. I used to be more protective, but and I couldn't care
I
much.
feel the same way.
Yeah, I really couldn't care what people think or how offended they are or whatever. So I don't mind. But the only thing is, I just don't want to be in a place where I have to answer certain questions, which I haven't just done my own due diligence on that. That's all it is. Otherwise, I think you definitely have something. Otherwise, it got me, and I still think you're right. Why does the Quran say this? Why does the Quran say that? It does make sense.
Yeah, this is the beautiful understanding of the Quran itself, is that this is Allah's knowledge. Imagine what that means. He put his knowledge in this book, and he gave it to us for free. Every man, woman, and child. What you're talking about, Al-Masih, it's like this person given this role is able to correct any kind of problem, really, like in the physical world.
Yeah,
it's like the Midas touch, just turns to gold, or he's got the kind of healer kind of abilities. This is what you see with Isa's story.
Yeah.
That's why those things are
go
mentioned.
through them. I mean, like, look here, it's in the book. It's actually the next piece. I'm going to be doing a recording on this about the hour.
You see,
Quran. The Quran is the knowledge for the hour, and
you're absolutely right. I can't agree with you more.
Right,
I'm convinced.
And so then one piece of that is answering this question, because they would say that there's 5 proofs in the Quran that Isa is returning, whereas I have to use those proofs against them. So I've got a section on that. And yeah, you're right, it's miraculous. So whatever the Masih is, it's clear Allah's listed all of these miraculous things that he comes with. That's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, he's never known to have killed anyone in his story.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because other prophets definitely had to do that. Definitely. So he's given a different kind of, it's like, imagine, you're familiar with the Avengers and stuff, right? It's like everyone has this little thing they bring to the table, and then there's always a leader. And the leader is kind of like using all the best traits from all those groups. Imagine, like, if you had, let's just say, let's just say Asa does return. Okay. What is he going to do? Is he going to do all of the things that you promote in the hadith? No. He's going to wash his hands clean of all of that. He never did any of that.
If anyone wants to see what a joke that whole narrative is, they just have to watch this. It's very funny.
That's a Christian narrative. I'm sorry to say, the Sunni hadith is a Christian narrative, because Isa is the righteous king at the end of the day that gets all the people Muslim, and he kills a swine, breaks the cross. He's ultimate, like, born again Christian kind of cult. And the Christians, they have a different understanding. Like, it's like,
I just love watching Mufti Abu Layth laughing, saying, he's going to come and kill the Jews. But why kill the Jews? He is a Jew. And then what's the other one? And he's a peaceful man. In the Bible, he's a peaceful man. Why does he have to kill the Dajjal if the Dajjal is going to melt by looking at him? Why does he have to go and kill him? It's all nonsense. It's all ridiculous.
Yeah. If you want, I mean, like, I kind of, it's such a struggle to admit to yourself that, hey, this thing I was following called Islam. I mean, it's just a mask over this Nasara thing. Like, mainly because I think that this is kind of it's a bit of a gray area, Yahud and Nasara and all this other. But I think what you see is just this kind of like literal like worship of this person in a concealed way. So it's not obvious to people following like what they end up doing, because they show him as this impoverished pauper that blessed are the poor and give in charity and do all of the kind of virtues of people that accept their worthlessness and their poverty. And they want these places to be like that, to dress like they're in the Middle Ages even. While the Christians, they have all of the wealth of the world and everything, because when it seems like, even you can go back into the Saud family and find they have like connections to Christian families even. And who are the main enemies of the Sunnis? Yahud. Insist considerably. Even some scholars of Islam, they recognize the Nasara are the Christians because they're closest to us. It makes more sense that Musa and Isa are basically named a few times, like right next to each other. And because their followers have created these like kind of large monstrosities of Christianity and Islam. Christianity is all about like plundering the world, it seems. Exactly how they're told Moses commanded them to do that in the wars of Joshua and all this. So they accept all the same stories. The, nominal Sunni Muslims that study the Bible, like, what's the name? Abu Zakaria on what's the channel? One message, many prophets, one message. They're going in the Bible.
I've been staying quiet for the last 8 minutes, but I wanted to ask you if we could wrap up, because the Zoom call is going to run out, but I think it might be a good time because I've got no more extensions left on there.
They've kind of divided them. They divide everything. Mahdi, Masih, Dajjal. They divide it all because they understand that Allah's truth simplifies things. So it may be that the person who is from the Mahdi, Isa is from this place. The Mahdi is a place, actually.
Right.
Well, he's called Muhammad ibn Abdullah. You just have to put all the pieces together. And then if he is a Khatam al-Nabiyyin, then he has all the similar stories to the prophets before him. And you can see evidences just reading the Quran that really the most important character of our time is this Prophet Muhammad, honestly. It could be many of the paintings of Jesus of him are just of him Muhammad. And they just, you never know. How would you know? It could be the iPad go-to kind of the Jalek Antichrist ginger Jesus character is just Prophet Muhammad. So they have to vilify and demonize it. They put horns on him. They call him Baphomet, everything. Because this is something very crucial. He came with the Quran. I'm trying to wrap it up, but I'm not very good at that.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Because I wanted us to touch on current events and connect it to the Quran. I believe we've done that. The V for Vendetta, clearly 2005, that's almost 20 years ago. And this is still the narrative. So I just hope that people are able to recognize that they want us to be in a fearful, angry, suffering state, and just connect to the Quran as we are, as best as you can. This will be our spiritual nourishment. And it's a conversation, and inshallah we're gonna have some more, inshallah.
Inshallah,
I appreciate this a lot because there's a lot that you definitely have to share, but there's only so much we can share within a podcast. But I recommend your live streams, inshallah.
Thank you. I kind of it's been a journey for me as well, because every time I feel like it's kind of like you've gone over some kind of hill. Every time I kind of tackle one issue and there's something I can reference later, then to me it's a success, because you grow in the understanding on this path. You don't come all of it, and you find that just collaborating, speaking to people such as yourself, sharing ideas, that this is part of how we remember.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I feel it as well. The empowering understanding when we're having these conversations and putting things together like this, it still is the most powerful thing. It's yeah, there is a good reason why all of us kind of flocked towards learning through YouTube when it first came about. There's a good reason for that, especially listening to these conversations because there's something very in tune with our fitra, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as time goes on, it'll be more obvious,
Mm.
which is a mercy in of itself.
Yeah.
And I thank Allah that we have these platforms that we can actually speak with like-minded people and learn from them, and start to kind of share ideas about what's the big what's the big end game in Islam,
Exactly, exactly. This is why the channel was started. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what on earth is going on? What the hell is going on? And there's loads of people like that. Yeah, so that's it. The world is split between those who want to know and those who don't want to know. So if you've reached to this point, then yeah, you're one of us who wants to know. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so the drama continues. Yeah, this is drama. It's in the movies, the drama, and the drama is being enacted in real life. The drama continues.
Yeah.
Ours is to stay focused on Allah, on reality, on truth, and yeah, point out the falsehood. This is what gives us life. This is what gives us yeah, meaning, spirit, the truth. And so yeah, keep away from these emotions that are trying to be spread onto us for very good reason, because it's through that we will most likely see things get worse. That is the reality. I don't want to try to make things too nice and coated that everything's going to be okay. Well, actually, everything is going to be okay for the believers. As Allah says, no fear, no grief for those. I won't go through them here now. But yeah, if people study that, there are those verses on the believers who don't have any fear, nor will they grieve. But yeah, very interesting the connections with V for Vendetta and everything that's happening, especially Britain. Okay, so that's it. And yeah, on whatever's next, inshallah.
Yeah, just stick around for the ride. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Brother Igor. Allah bless you
Okay.
for your time. I know you did a long live stream yesterday as well, so even more so, thank you for your time right now. And yeah, speak to you on the next one, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah, most appreciated anytime, Brother Luis.
Okay. And for everyone who is still listening, yeah, stay tuned for Brother Imran's presentations on nature coming up soon, inshallah. Okay, everyone.
Inshallah.
Okay.
All
Salam
right.
alaikum.
Alaikum assalam, brother.
What is that?
It's a copy of the Quran, 14th century.
Are you a Muslim?
No, I'm in television.
But why would you keep it?
I don't have to be Muslim to find the images beautiful or its poetry moving.
But is it worth it? I mean, if they found that here.
I told you, you'd be the least of my worries.